Hey guys, welcome. I'm Jamie. We're going to talk today about Ujjayi breath, a pranayama or breathing technique that's traditionally used during asana practice in yoga, the movement practice of yoga. And then we're going to do a brief meditation using that same breathing technique. So let's talk a little bit about what Ujjayi breath is and why it gets used so frequently when we are practicing yoga postures. Ujjayi translates into victorious. So Ujjayi breath is victorious breath in Sanskrit, the translation, and it is a breath that we create with a little bit of sound coming from a constriction at the back of the throat. Because of that sound and because of the way it creates this ocean-like sound, ocean wave-like sound, it is often called ocean breath as well. So you might hear it called that at times if you're ever hearing it in a class. But maybe you've been in a yoga class and you've heard a teacher mention using Ujjayi breath but didn't really get an explanation of what it was. Maybe you did but don't feel completely comfortable with it, or maybe you haven't heard it before and you're just curious. So we'll talk about that today and we'll do a little tutorial. But starting with just the reason behind it and why we use this breathing technique. It is a way to breathe very smooth and long. So we always, when we're mindfully breathing, we always want to be breathing in a smooth manner. We want to be breathing deep into our belly and our lungs, really utilizing our lung capacity. And we want our breath to become long, maybe longer than it is when we're just in our typical day-to-day routine of mindless breathing, as I often call it. I do it all the time, where we're just breathing really short and shallow, maybe into the chest for the most part. So think about that as you breathe, really breathing and filling yourself up from the bottom to the top on your inhales. And as you exhale, emptying out all that air and really pulling the belly button in towards the spine to push all of the air out of you at the bottom. And this is a really nice breathing technique when we're practicing asana, or a movement practice, postures in yoga where we're moving maybe a little more quickly, a little faster pace, because it connects our breath and our movement together. So it gives us something to focus on with the breath. We have the sound that we're creating. Your mind can focus in on that sound, and then as you move, you're able to connect your breath and movement together again, creating a very mindful practice and making sure that we are remaining connected and we are remaining present instead of letting our mind wander off to, the million other things that it always wants to be thinking about. So we'll do a little practice here. The best way that I can explain this to you is the constriction at the back of your throat is similar to what you might do if you were fogging up a mirror or like a window if it was cold or you just gotten out of the shower or something. Traditionally, we're going to do this breath with the mouth closed, but we'll practice it here first with the mouth open. And you can even hold your hand up, pretend that's your mirror if that helps you get the little visualization. You can do it without that as well. But open up the mouth and then just take a big inhale. Well, you can even inhale with the mouth closed through the nose. And then open up the mouth and exhale with a little bit of sound. So create that constriction just like you were going to try to fog up a mirror. And do that a couple of times. And I want you to notice how that feels in the back of your throat as you do that. And when you start to feel comfortable with it, maybe you add that same sound on the inhale. So you can do that with the mouth open here, maybe now breathing in and out through an open mouth and creating that sound on both the inhale and the exhale. And you can continue to practice this as long as you need to until you start to feel comfortable with it. And then when you're ready, you can begin to practice it with the mouth closed. So you're still creating that same sound, just now breathing in and out through the nose. So the goal here isn't to be the loudest breather. It's not to be the person that everyone in the room can hear. Ideally, you can hear your own breath when you're breathing this way. Possibly you can hear the person next to you if you're in a class with other people. but it's not about creating the loudest possible sound. It's just a very subtle sound that you should be able to hear from your own breath. And I like to practice this here seated because getting the hang of it first before you start trying to incorporate it into your actual movement practice, that is, a lot of things at once potentially. So we get the hang of it here, and then maybe the next time you're practicing yoga, then you start seeing if you can incorporate that in. Traditionally, if you're practicing more like fast-paced yogas like Vinyasa or Ashtanga or something like that, we're going to be moving one breath per movement in those practices. So then you really start to connect, the inhale is one movement, the exhale is one movement. When you're practicing, the slower pace, you are probably taking more breaths during each posture, but you can still utilize that Ujjayi breath to help keep you focused and present, remembering to always bring your attention back to the breath and keep that breath as your point of focus when the mind wanders away. Our mind always wanders away. There's no trick I have for you for maintaining presence the entire time, because I certainly haven't mastered that technique, but this is a good tool to utilize to bring yourself back when you notice that your mind's wandering. So on that note, we're going to do a little meditation. Let's keep it pretty brief here, but this is a meditation that you can then use frequently in your life when you feel like it's needed. So the purpose of this meditation is to root ourselves in who we are at our depth, at our soul level, the truth of who we are as a person, and being able to separate that from our thoughts and from our emotions. We often identify ourselves by our emotions. I am happy, I am sad, or whatever it may be. This is a technique to end that, to stop identifying ourselves as our emotions, to remember that our emotions are an experience that we are having. They do not identify us, and we are practicing in this meditation being the observer, the witness to all that is happening from a non-judgmental place, right? So without reaction, without that desire to change or shift anything right in that moment. Okay, that was a lot of explanation for that, but I think it's helpful to kind of know ahead of time where we're going here. So find a seat that's comfortable for you, and that can be anything. If you have a particular way you like to sit, do it. Find a straight spine, shoulders soft, down and back. Think about opening up through the heart space, root through your sits bones, and close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, or find a soft gaze if not. If you really don't like being seated, that's really not comfortable for you, and you prefer to lay down, that's okay too. So find what works for you, settle yourself in, and let's just start with some natural breath here. So notice your breath flowing in and out through your nose. This is your first experiment here in being the observer. So observing your breath without judgment and without immediately trying to change anything about it. And then you can begin to slowly deepen the breath. So start to draw that breath all the way into the belly, filling yourself all the way up. Feel your lungs expand with that inhale. And as you exhale, you're emptying all the way out. Let that be a nice long exhale. Take your time, pressing all of the air out at the bottom. And then as you feel ready, you can begin to add that Ujjayi breath in. So you can create that ocean sound, that constriction at the back of your throat. Now you can keep this going throughout the meditation, or you might just start with it and then return to your natural breath, whatever feels right for you. Start to connect with that sound of ocean waves. Maybe begin to visualize ocean waves creating this sound. You see them rolling over the top of the ocean. Maybe rolling in towards the shore and back out. And I want you to picture yourself down at the depths of the ocean, deep down there, and there's nothing to be scared of here. So the things that we might find scary about being at the depths of the ocean, we're letting that kind of dissipate and deciding that those things aren't present. So creatures that are scary, we're able to breathe here. It doesn't have to be dark. Let it be whatever feels comfortable for you. That you're down in the ocean and that you're connected here with your true self here at the depths of the ocean. You're rooted into the earth here at the bottom. And the waves that you hear passing over above you are simply something that is occurring and happening around you. And you might feel the effects of them from down there slightly. They're simply an experience. They're passing through. You remain unchanged. You remain as your true self. And those waves may begin to identify for you as the emotion or emotions that you're feeling in this moment. So you see that and you witness it and you acknowledge that it's there. And you allow yourself to even feel it while still being able to separate yourself from it. Being able to acknowledge that it doesn't define us, that it isn't who we are. It's simply what we're experiencing in this moment. Maybe those waves become thoughts that you're having. If you're having a thought that is persistent, maybe an obsessive thought, maybe a thought that does not serve you well, a thought that negatively affects you, again, acknowledge it and see it as the observer. See that it's there. Acknowledge how it makes you feel, even within your body. But allow it to be separate from you, passing through. Always connecting back here to that sense of being rooted down, being deep and still. So go ahead now and release that Ujjayi breath and just let your natural breath return. You maybe invite a little movement into your fingers and toes here, maybe moving your shoulders or your head side to side. Eventually you might let your eyes float open. If that's not comfortable for you, you can keep them closed. Find a really gentle, soft gaze without letting too much light in all at once. And that was a really short version, but this is a really great practice to have in your sort of toolbox, your inner toolbox, to use for yourself to really reconnect when you find that you lose your sense of grounding because of what's happening in your life, where you start to feel overtaken by the emotions you're experiencing. You start to feel defined by them. You know, I am a sad person because I'm experiencing sadness. We can let that go. We can simply be the person who is experiencing sadness in this moment while still acknowledging that that wave is going to pass, that we are separate from that emotion without pretending like it doesn't exist. So it's not about pushing the emotions down or pretending like they're not happening. It's simply about remembering that we remain separate. So hopefully that is a helpful technique for you, something that you can utilize in the future. Great when you're feeling particularly stressed or maybe just need a moment during your day to reconnect. So Again, I'm Jamie. Thank you for joining me. I'd love it if you guys subscribed and followed along with me as I create more of these videos for you to just share, I don't know, all sorts of different things. I've got lots of ideas, so I'm excited to get them out there. You can learn more about me at my website. That is jamierye.com, and you can sign up for my email list there and get a free intention setting worksheet sent to you, which is really a cool way to start living a more intentional life by really identifying what intentions you want to live by. You can also shop. I create intentional crystal products, jewelry, and such. So you can find my shop through my website. And I hope that you will join me again